Hello my friends, it's Maria from StashBlaster Quilts, and I am here to help you make more quilts in less time with less stress. I have had a lot of stress the last few weeks since I saw you last, so it has been kind of crazy around the Spatelnik house. But I thought that I would show you a few things today, and I'm going to relax while I do it. So come and join me. So the tip for this week is going to be using timers. Now, a lot of people know about using timers to make sure that you leave the home on time or something like that. But I'd like you to consider potentially using timers to stop a process. Not like baking, I'm talking sewing. Because it's very easy once you kind of get into the groove, if you have all afternoon to sew, that you just dig in and you just sew and sew and sew. And these muscles on your back and your shoulders can get super tight and you can be in a lot of pain for a couple of days. What I'd like you to do is set a timer for somewhere between 15 and maybe 30 minutes, somewhere in that range, maybe as long as 45. And when the timer goes off, take a couple of minutes to just let your arms hang down at your sides. Do some breathing, maybe some stretching so you can get these muscles all working again. And then you can dig back in. It's worth taking the 2 to 5 minutes to stretch because the amount of pain it will save you is definitely worth it. And you'll get better sleep. And so you'll recover better too. So it's all a win-win-win. So I'd like you to consider using timers to take sewing breaks. I did hear a cute quote this week that also kind of applies to organizing, but kind of doesn't, but it was fun. It says, "You can't always get what you want. Where would you put it?" And so I was sitting there going, that's a really good question. If I could get everything I wanted, that would include the long arm machine, but do I really want a long arm? Do I want to sit down? Maybe I need both, But there is no place in my house I could put all of this stuff. And it's really good to keep in mind when you're going to look at items or look for specific kinds of items to take the house into consideration. You know what? Maybe my wall is long enough for the long arm, but do I have the room to get all the way around it and do the things I need to do? Or am I going to be miserable because I've got this giant doorstop in my way? So when you're thinking about acquiring things, keep in mind, where's it going to live? How am I going to make it work? Okay, so the next thing is going to be, I'm going to update you on the quilts. So let me go to the wide view. Behind me here, I have the challenge quilt that I was working on. It's all sewn together. I just need to dig behind this panel over here and get some backing for it and batting, and then during quilt camp next week, this is one of the things I'm going to be basting. I'm going to show you all the different stuff I'm hoping to do at quilt camp. That's in addition to listening to people who are going to be doing various trainings, and there's like a mystery quilt, there's all kinds of things. I don't think I'm going to participate in everything, but I signed up for everything so that I can get handouts and things, and then maybe do things later if they look like they were a good match for me. So anyway, so here is the challenge quilt. Then these are those little pieces that I made at the same time as I made this, because I took my 5-inch square and I sewed down both sides and the bottom and then cut my triangle out, which meant that 2 triangles were already sewn together, and it gave me 2 additional mirror image triangles and some pieces at the top. So it was very useful to me. I've been sewing the pieces as leaders and enders. So it's worked out pretty well once I trimmed off my triangles. So I've been pretty happy. So that's what these are. Now, I was planning on doing this on the back having black fabric and then putting the same pattern with the double pieces on the back. And I may still do that, but I'm considering not. I'm considering doing one of 2 other things. Either I'm doing another quilt, which is that as a star, and then maybe have some of these diamonds shooting out from the angle here I thought that might be kind of nice looking. But when I put this on the wall, and I put it like this just to make some space, I was sitting there going, you know what? That looks like the Star Trek logo on the shirts for Starfleet Academy. And what I also might do is take any leftover pieces that I have and make some little mini quilts that are Starfleet and give them to friends of mine who are into that. So I haven't decided yet. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do here, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. The underwater quilt is coming along. There is one strip across the top that I don't think you can see. Oh, you can just see on the very, very far corner over there, the very tippy top, you can just see the bottom edge of another row. That's the very top of the quilt. The pieces on the top are the ones that I carry around with me. I have a box that's yay big, and I can put those taped together and carry them in that box. The pieces are the size of the row of blue ones on the right there, the blue and purple. So they fit nicely in that box along with the threads and the needle and the scissors, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I can't put two of them together because I can't carry that. So I have some that I've been doing when I've been out and around, but not as much. And so I have the one row's worth there, and I've done all the rest of this here at home. And once I get a row done, or maybe two, what I've been doing is attaching it to the lower ones. So from your view here down is all one piece now. It's all stitched together. Then I have these two rows that are complete that need to get put in. And then I've got 5 blocks at the far end that I need to put together. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is, I'm thinking maybe during the Super Bowl I'll try to put these other 2 rows on, but we'll see. I'm going to have Jonathan and his girlfriend Lauren are going to be here, so I don't know how much sewing I'm going to do, but there is a chance, so I may do that. Right now I've been spending most of my time working on your mystery quilt and working on the book that I'm writing. I don't remember if I talked about this last time, so I'm going to talk about it here. I have applied to be a speaker at the International OCD Foundation's annual conference in San Francisco in July. If I get that, I would like to have my new book ready for it. My new book is on hoarding, but instead of being for law enforcement like my first book, this is going to be for friends and family. And so it has a lot more information. I'm telling more stories. I'm making sure things are a little bit clearer. I'm adding some stuff. So, for example, a co-compliance officer doesn't need to know his rules and how to work with him. They already know that. So I skipped all of that. And while they're interested in the psychology, I didn't get really deep into that. So my first book is a fairly slim read, and it's basically designed to be read on the toilet. You know, short chapters, to the point, make my point and move on. So the new book is going to be probably 4 times as long. So it'll probably be a good 350, 400 pages. And so I have been doing a lot of rewriting stuff I already had written, and then doing a lot of new stuff to add in. So I'm working on that, and so a lot of my time is going to have to go there instead of into the sewing. So I have gone ahead and I spent through the end of January getting caught up on stuff for here. So for example, I haven't trimmed them yet, but I have the center blocks done for the mystery quilt. So I'm a little bit ahead, and I've written the first few rounds worth of notes for you and things like that. So I spent January trying to get ahead so I can really dig in for the next couple of months and do a lot of writing. So January is when I started my 30-day challenge for the iced tea. And I have decided that what I'm going to do for at least the next 30 days is, food just doesn't taste the same with iced tea as it does with Diet Coke. I have been drinking Diet Coke since I was a teenager, so for me it was a huge change. So I'm allowing myself to have the Diet Coke for meals, but then I have iced tea up here. So I'm going to try to do better That's really all I'm aiming for. I don't expect any of you to be perfect with anything that I show you. You shouldn't expect yourself to be perfect. I'm not going to expect myself to be perfect on the 30-day challenge either. So that's what I'm doing. I just realized I'm hoping you can hear me. Yes. I had taken my microphone off and turned it off, and I was sitting there going, did I turn it back on? Sorry about that. Okay, good. So we are good. Your mystery quilt. I have asked Scott to post either today or tomorrow morning step 1. But I'm going to go over the stuff now. There are 13 sessions. Now, especially if you're doing one of the small tabletopper, you're going to be bored because there won't be that much to do on each one. If you're doing the laptop, though, you're going to have to hustle to keep up. Okay? So, what I did was, actually, let me pull something up here on my computer so I can make sure I don't forget something. Sorry about this. Okay. Okay, so there's a little bit of the explanation of what this is, and now we're going to talk about the fabric. Now I showed this last time, but I want to make sure that it's clear, and I did put pictures of this in the notes. And it's this is round 1. So what I'm recommending is a focus fabric. Now, how do I tell you this without giving everything away? You're going to want to have very small scale fabrics because our finished blocks in the middle are only 5 inches. Okay? It's not as scary as it sounds because of how we're going to do it, but if you have a large scale print, you're going to miss most of it. So either something that either reads as a solid from a distance, something with very small prints, or something like this where, yes, every single block's going to be different, but they're all coordinated to go together, is probably your best bet. I just wanted to do something really bright and sunny and cheerful, and so this is the fabric that I chose. Again, we wanted to keep this simple. This is the first one I'm doing this way for this channel. I've done a couple of mystery quilts before, but it's been done in person, and I could help people with fabric selection and all that kind of stuff. If you want to run anything by me, you can email me. I didn't put the email address up again, I'm sorry. It's mail@StashBlasterQuilts.com. If you shoot me an email, maybe with some pictures, I can tell you if I think it will work or not. But I liked having something bright and cheerful, but it's all coordinated, and it doesn't matter if there's any little tiny pieces because nothing is just plain white. Okay? I want you to have contrast between your focus and your background. So I have 2 backgrounds here. This one is a white on white. So obviously any piece of this touching the white is going to look great. And then I am also doing this one. Let me see if I can get you a better view of it. First, let me do this, and then let me do that. It is not going. Okay. Alright, my down camera is not working. Well, oh good, you can see it here. So this is black with multicolored dots. Okay? And so if a dot shows up or doesn't show up, it should be fine. So those are the ones that I picked. If you want to do this scrappy, in the instructions I'm including a little bit of information about what you'll need. But for the tabletopper in particular, I would go with just the 2 fabrics. The laptop you might want to consider doing more scrappy. It takes a ton of fabric the way this is being done. So I just want to give you a heads up there. Okay, so next time in 2 weeks, you're going to get the cutting instructions. And then from there, we're going to do it step by step. Okay? So if you haven't done a mystery quilt before, This is simple, okay? I wanted to keep it easy. I want to make it so that even a brand spanking new quilter can get a result that looks amazing. And I've never actually designed a table topper before. I've done my own, but I've never done one for other people. And there are standard sizes. So the lap size is 51 by 66 if you don't add a border on it, which I recommend you do, or 57 by 72, which is a standard throw size. But table toppers, they can be any size. So I'm giving you 3 different sizes on the handout for how much fabric to have. The small one finishes at about 21 inches. The medium is 26 and the large is 31. I said 31 by 36. How did I do that? I mistyped here. I better fix this so that when Scott puts it up, it's got the right numbers. So it's going to be about 31 by 31. And of course, if you wanted to add another border on there, you could. Hold on. Sometimes I forget to turn my keyboard on. I have a remote keyboard, a wireless, and so to keep it from running out of charge all the time, and I'm already down to 1 bar, it's got a little on-off switch, and I don't always remember to turn it back on, and I'm typing away and nothing's happening. Okay, so 21, 26, and 31. Okay, our center squares are 5, so that kind of makes sense. But I was thinking if you had a small table, you might not want anything bigger than this. Obviously, you can do rectangles. You can do whatever you want that's going to fit your table. But I did give you the fabric requirements for all 3. So there's 4 different sets there, and hopefully that'll answer your questions. If you are doing the laptop and you want bigger squares, I have 2 larger sizes that I can give you the starting square size so that you could make fewer squares to complete the quilt and still get the same look. I wanted to make sure that was available. I didn't put it on the sheet because I didn't want to confuse somebody if they just came into this without watching the videos first. Because I think that having multiple things like that could really confuse people. So if you're interested, go ahead and email me on that. Okay. I don't know why my phone is doing that. I've set it on Do Not Disturb. So again, I'm sorry. Let me set that now. Okay. Okay. So the next couple of weeks. Next week, I'm at Quilt Camp. So my guild, the Springfield Quilters Unlimited, does a 3-day retreat, basically, in the fire hall where we have our normal meetings. And so there's going to be people that are going to be teaching some different things. It's a great time to just sew and get caught up on projects. There's going to be lunches there. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And it's basically a great time to reconnect with my quilting buddies. And so since it's in the fire hall, they have bingo Tuesday night. So we can't leave our machines overnight. We can Wednesday to Thursday, but not Tuesday to Wednesday. So Tuesday, I am planning on not taking my machine in. I am planning on doing other projects, and so I thought I would share with you what I'm going to be doing. So one of the things we have are we have PVC risers that we can put on the legs of the tables. They're the standard folding table where it's got a U-shaped leg at the end. Okay, so the legs come down and then it has a crossbar. And we can put these PVC pipes on there that are only about this big, but it raises the table up to a more comfortable height for basting. So my goal is to baste this quilt that's behind me, the charm quilt, because it's due in June. Hold on 1 second here. Let me make sure this is working. There we go. So this one is due in June. If I decide that I'm going to copycat it on the back like I originally planned, what I'll do is I'll applique the pieces on the back onto the finished quilt and then do some stitching through that just backing piece of fabric and hold it down that way. So I'm going to kind of reverse quilt it on at that point, because I want to make sure I get this part done with everything that's going on. And like I said, with all the book stuff for July, then I have August and September, I have 4 more events I'm going to. So that's going to kind of skew the end of things. So I'm going to be doing that. Then I have the 2 StashBlaster 2 quilts. Now they've been sewn and they were stay stitched. And I originally only stay stitched them because my plan was when I'm teaching that I would be able to carry them with a lot less weight when I didn't have the backing and the batting and the extra thread and all of that. I think I am going to quilt one of these because I have a 2-color quilt challenge for Springfield. So this would be it. So I just need to get it basted and quilted. Then if you go back in the archives of the lives here, you'll see that I did something with spiral quilting. Okay, oh, that shows up pretty good here. Now, I learned a few things with this, including that these puffy bats are really hard to do. Plus, my machine, the little bar you're supposed to put in so you can follow yourself around, has to go in backwards, so it's on the wrong side, so I had to keep jamming the whole amount of the quilt underneath the throat of the machine, so that wasn't very comfortable. And it liked to lift, so it wasn't tracing like it should have. So I had some challenges with it, but that doesn't mean I won't do this again. But I want to get this bound. So I'm hoping in this next week or so, next few days, probably over the weekend, to get the binding put on the front, and then it's something I can hand stitch on the back. Particularly with all of the basting. If anybody else needs a table, since I'm planning on doing somewhere between 2 and 4 quilts, it would get somebody else in there and it would keep me from being unproductive. So I'm going to put the binding on and then turn that over on this. And then over on my wall of UFOs, I had some double pinwheel blocks. So this is what my double pinwheel blocks look like. Okay. And I had in my notations that I was a quarter done, but when I looked at it, I'm only like 10%. So I have sewn the pinwheels, but they need to all be trimmed before they get sewn together into the final top. So I will also have this as a project to work on Tuesday if I run out of things to do. And so I'll get those all cut. Then Wednesday and Thursday I'll finish up anything I didn't do on Tuesday, and then I will potentially quilt the 2 quilts that I definitely want to get basted. And then I had made up this. One of the guild members had a sit-down quilting machine that she was going to let me have, which would have been really nice. It had a great big table and everything. And I could have put it down in my basement. But she couldn't get it to work. So I wound up not getting it. But as a test, I made this. Now, again, it's this big poofy batting. I have got tons of this stuff. So I figure charity, testing, etc., this works really well. Because if a machine can handle this stuff, it can handle your regular cotton batting. Because this is double thick polyester. But I had these blocks that I got off of our free table. And so sewed them together and they were ready for a test. So I might as well get this quilted and off to charity. So I'll be sewing that. Let me see, what else? I think that's it. I tend to be overly ambitious and take too much stuff, but I'd rather have too much stuff to do than too little. If I get done with this and I still have time, then probably in the evening I will put those double pinwheel blocks up on this wall and get it laid out and numbered, and then I'll probably assemble that. Because it'll take a couple of days, amongst all the chit-chat and everything, to finish that up as well. And get it basted and everything too, if I have time. So I have quite a bit planned, but like I said, I'd rather have too much than too little. And if worse comes to worse, I always have the hexagon quilt, so I can always take the hexagons and work on that. I have probably the row that I'm working on, and then I think there's three more rows. And so there's like times 3 is 10. So there's 10 of the, here, it's hard for you to see, so let me open this up again. The blocks at the top, there's 10 of those per row. And so that's 5 of them you see there. They're spread out a little bit. So that's like 40 of the blocks, sorry, it'd be 35 of the blocks to make, and then the blocks have to get attached to each other, and then the rows have to get put on. So it's still going to take quite a bit of time to finish, but I'm definitely in the home stretch. You can just see it from here. So if I had been having as much free time to sew as I did for a little while there, it'd have been done. But it's not, so we're going to wait. I always do travel, though, with that hot pink box I told you about for the blocks for the top, so I have at least a row's worth there, and I can always do that at Quilt Camp as well. But there are going to be classes to take and things like that, so it should be a lot of fun. It's the one thing that I do every year just for myself, and so I had mentioned to Scott that I really needed to work on the book instead. He goes, "You are going to Quilt Camp." I feel like, you know, this is more important, because Quilt Camp is just for me. I really need to go ahead and get that extra week's worth of work done on the, I know it's only 3 days, but it's still a week's worth of work. Because the time I'm not at Quilt Camp, I'm going to have to be catching up on the stuff I missed, you know, client things, those kinds of things. So, I was like, no, I think I'm going to skip Quilt Camp. He goes, "You are going to Quilt Camp." I'm like, okay, all right, fine, I'll go. So I really do enjoy it. It's one of those things where I can detox for a little bit, because I am not somebody who has to write. I'm not a writer who feels this drive that they've got to get their thoughts on paper. I write to help people learn about what I know. Whether that's a pattern or whether that's hoarding. Okay? I love to share that information and have people be able to access it. One of the reasons I started teaching about hoarding in the first place was I had been in a bad situation where an officer, I was on a ride-along. Here in Fairfax County, you can go on a ride-along. And he acted exactly the wrong way in a hoarded environment. And there's all kinds of repercussions from that. But I said, okay, well, let me teach the local cops at the Criminal Justice Academy what to do. And so I did that. But then I realized how many other people out there didn't know, and I didn't have the ability to go and talk to them. Because either they're out of state, or, you know, for one reason or another. I cannot teach everyone, so that's why I wrote the first book. And it was received pretty well. I made some improvements to it. I put out the second edition. And then this third book is to help the non-law enforcement type people, because people had asked me, should I give that book to my friend who's hoarding? I'm like, well, it's better than nothing, but it's not really geared towards them. So this book is. So this is going to take a lot of work, but it is not joyous work for me. Let's put it that way. It's not something that I'm like, oh, I feel so much better after I write. I feel better after I sew. So I'm going to do some of this every day too, but I am really knuckling down to get the book finished, because that's for July, and then there's all the other conferences, and if I can get it ready, I can potentially sell them at all the conferences. I don't know if you knew this or not, but international conferences do not pay you to teach. They pay, you know, all of these places pay for their people to attend the conferences, and they pay these huge registration fees, but the speakers are not paid. So if I do this thing in San Francisco in July, I have to fly to California. I'm going to have all of my food expenses. I'm going to have the cost of the flight, the hotel, anything I want to do in San Francisco. Plus I have to pay and be registered for the conference. I'm getting a discount, but even so, that's the sum total of what you get as a speaker. So if you attend conferences thank your speakers, because it costs us money to share our knowledge with you. So anyway, so if I can sell a few books, that kind of helps. At least covers food expense or a hotel night or whatever. Okay, well, I have a bunch of stuff to share today, actually. And then I'm going to do some sewing, potentially. So, I had mentioned last time that I have this pin cushion with a little trash bag holder on it, but I also have something called a sip and snip. And so one of my darling subscribers sent me a note and asked me what a sip and snip is. So this is the sip and snip by, hold on, let me turn it this way. The Sensational Sip and Snip from thegypsyquilter.com. I got this. Oh, good golly, Miss Molly. It had to have been 10 or 15 years ago. And what I like is that it clamps on, right? Your cup goes here. I like to have a paper towel in the bottom just so it doesn't drip on my floor. Now I do have carpet. It would not be so wet that it would mold or anything, but I like having the paper towel there anyway. And there's a slot in the ring, so it's a solid ring until you get to here. So if you have something with a handle, no, this one wouldn't do that. But if this was a regular mug and you put it in, the mug would go through the slot, so you can use any size cup basically in here. And then it has the trash bag. I always put a either grocery bag or a Ziploc in here. And you can actually remove this if you want and take it to the trash can and then put it back on when you come back. It's just a little C-shaped piece of metal. So I'm going to try to do this upside down and backwards, so forgive me if I do this badly. So you just hook one end on like that, pinch it together, pop it in, and your bag is all assembled. So this is really nice because I like having my drink handy, but I don't want it on my tabletop. Right now I have it over here because I took this off the table. But, so this is the Sip and Snip. There's other versions of it. There's one I first saw that was smaller here. It was an oval. But this great big honkin' huge circle is really nice because things like the double gulp from 7-Eleven fits in this. So you can put any size mug that you have practically into there and not have to worry about, oh crud, it's a little bit too small. It's probably going to fit. So I had that to show you. And I was thinking about this because I have 2 trash cans underneath my table, plus I have the Sip and Snip. So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking what I might do is, even though I have the holders over here that I showed you before. Hold on. I can't get a grip. Hold on, I'm getting there. Get a grip, Maria. Okay, so even though I have these holders for pens and scissors and paintbrushes for cleaning out my machine and a ruler and all kinds of stuff in here, it's a little bit further away than I would prefer. It's technically in reach, but you saw I had to kind of like lean over and stretch to get it. But what I thought I might do is either put a couple little pockets on the inside of this, or redo this piece into a thin rectangle and put the stuff I use by the machine all the time in here, so that maybe this would go like this over. Yep. I'm going to take the pin cushion off. It's just got a button here. So if this was, let's say, a rectangle instead of a round and it was a thin one, I could just do things like plop that in like this, and then my large seam ripper could go in. I haven't decided yet. This might be a project that I tackle sometime in the future. But I do wind up with a bunch of stuff just kind of put here under the throat of my machine when I'm sewing, so that it's handy, but it also then gets in the way with something like quilting, because the quilt itself swoops by and cleans it all out. So Haven't decided, but I might do something with that. If you are not here in Northern Virginia, today was our first snow. I was so happy because I am so tired of the cold, drippy rain we've been having. So at least it was snow. So it looked nice. It didn't even cover the grass. Okay, so it wasn't a real snow like from when I was up in New York, but it was kind of nice to see. So I'm hoping, since the temperatures are staying fairly low, that if we get more precipitation, we get it as snow instead of rain. But today would have been my mother's birthday. She died a couple of Julys ago. Now, the tradition in our family is that you do not commemorate a death day. I don't even remember exactly which day of the month my mom and dad died on. Okay? We celebrate their birthdays. So today would have been my mother's birthday. And I know, I'm not a huge believer in spirits and ghosts and things like this, but I know that today she decided that she needed a birthday present, and her birthday present was going to be tweaking me. Because today has been one of those days where nothing horrible happened. Okay, I have nothing truly worth whining about. But it's been one of those days where on the path to where you're going, everything is half a step up to the left. You know, I got all made up and dressed, and I went to go to a meeting, and apparently it got canceled, but I didn't get notification of it. And I had, in the morning before I left, I checked and made sure that nothing had canceled, nothing had changed. So it wasn't until I'd paid for the 2 hours worth of parking, and I went in. I even checked before I paid for parking. Has any cancellation come in? Has anything changed? Nope. I paid for my parking. I went inside, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, oh. So I called the guy in charge, and he's like, yeah, that's really weird. I always tell people not to book the first because it surprises people when they flip their calendar that they've got something to do. So I had driven all the way into Alexandria, and then I had to drive all the way back. Well, this was a lunch meeting, so I also didn't get lunch. It was just one of those kinds of a day where it was just like, everything is just that little half step to the left. So I know that my mom is laughing like a maniac right now because she managed to twit me all day, but she didn't cause me any major problems either. It was just enough to be obnoxious. So so it does kind of make me wonder sometimes whether I really do I really do believe in ghosts or not. So anyway, am I on one? Yeah, I am. Okay. Wait a minute. It looks like things have changed here. I'm sorry. I'm looking at what you're looking at, and I am several minutes ahead. So I'm not sure what's going on. I'm still going to go until 8. This might run longer for you. I apologize if something weird is happening. But I just looked on YouTube Studio, and it's all the way back to when I was talking about the fabric selections, which was at least 15 minutes ago. So I'm not sure whether what I'm seeing is legit or what, or what. So I apologize if something strange has happened. I'm just going to keep going, though. I told you that I will share with you when I find something fun on YouTube or things like that. Right now, I have been watching something called the Holderness Family. I don't remember if it's musicians, but if you plug Holderness Family into YouTube, this is a guy who he's hysterical. He does song parodies. So if you like song parodies, you'll enjoy this. And so he and his whole family do this. Parodies about COVID, about anxiety, about family life. Various musicians narrate your day. So there's all kinds of weird stuff. Thank you, Judy. I appreciate that. I just saw Judy's comment, sorry. So if you're looking for something just fun to listen to, you can set in the background, play all. You might find that you have a good time with that. There is one song, I don't need it, but I want it, about shopping in Costco. I'm trying to reach out to them to see if I can get permission to use that in some of my classes that I teach on hoarding and decluttering. So hopefully that'll go well. Okay, so let me see. Do I have anything else on here? Oh, scam videos. So I don't remember if it was last week or the week before. I was watching the first in a video series on scams. And they are put on by the AARP. So if you are interested, you might want to check it out. This particular one is being hosted by an elder community. And so the one that I saw was on romance scams. And, this is your stereotypical con man or con woman who tricks somebody and they steal all their money and then they're gone. And so that was really interesting. We're going to be talking about IRS scams tomorrow. And then there's another one after that. I'm not exactly sure what that one is. If you are interested, shoot me an email. Again, mail@StashBlasterQuilts.com, and I can send you the information on how to register, because I can just forward it to you. And then you could start plugging in at that point. And I believe that you can go back and watch the romance one until a little bit after the third one's complete. I'm not exactly sure how that works. But there's a lot of information out there on elder scams. And AARP does a bunch of them, don't get me wrong. But I can't believe how many people of all ages get caught in these things. And so just as I want to protect my world and my planet here, if you are not aware of scams that are happening, it's a good idea every once in a while to check in and see what's going on. So you could go to something like AARP and see what they offer, but I kind of like having the ability to ask questions too, or to say, hey, I heard about something like this, is that the same kind of a thing? So I'd like you to consider it. But it was really interesting to listen to. Everybody knows about the Nigerian prince thing, but there are so many different things for scamming people. And one thing that I thought was particularly interesting was, let's say I was on a dating website. Now, I've been married for over 30 years, not planning on doing any dating. Not going to happen. If something happens to my husband, I'm done. I'm just not going to bother training a new one. But one of the things I thought was interesting is if you're on a dating website, everybody knows to be careful about the people who respond to your profile. But what they don't tell you is that what a lot of the scammers do is they'll put up a ton of different profiles, and you respond to their profile. And so what happens is, and of course it's fake photos and all that, but you think that it's okay because you chose them, but they're still scamming you because they had so many different profiles out there to attract different people. So I had never thought about something like that. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to learn. So there's all kinds of cool stuff out there. There's lots of seminars on things like your legal documents. Wills, trusts, powers of attorney, living wills, do not resuscitates, 5 wishes. There's tons of things like that out there. And it's sad, but 80% of people die without having their legal paperwork done. Now, here's the thing, and I've explained this to people in the past this way. I had this client. She was 86 at the time, I think. I'm going to call her Betty here. And I was talking to Betty about the legal documents, and she goes, you know what, Maria? Wills are for old people, and when I get old, I'll get one. And I looked at her and I said, okay, Betty, that's perfectly fine. I get it. I said, here's what I'm concerned about. 25-year-olds get hit by buses. She goes, yeah, I know that. I said, don't take this wrong, but if you get hit by a bus and die, I'm less concerned than if you get hit by a bus and live. And she looked at me like I had just stabbed her in the gut. I said, let me explain why. Every state has a formula because so many people die intestate, which means without a will. They have a formula. And depending on who's left living in your family, they take all of your assets, they'll appoint an attorney to handle everything, get everything cleaned out, everything sold that can be sold. They will take all that, throw it in a big pot, and then based on the formula, divide up the money and send it away. And I said, so since your sister is your only living relative, she's going to get all your money. And she goes, my sister's an idiot. I don't want her to have any of my money. I said, well, you're not going to have a choice, but you won't be around to worry about it. But there is a formula your state will be dealt with. So the concern that I have is if you're hit by a bus and live, because you rent, even if it was an owned house, you'd still have this problem. But in this particular case, I said, because you rent. And she said, well, what does that matter? I said, well, because if you don't have a financial power of attorney or a durable power of attorney, or depending on what state you live in, it has other names, nobody's going to be paying your rent. If you spend 6 months in the hospital, which at your age is not uncommon, or, between a hospital and skilled nursing, 6 months is very common, by the time you can go back to your apartment, it will have already been rented to somebody else and all your stuff was put out on the street some time ago. You're not going to have a single photograph. You're not going to have anything. Anything of value that you had will have been picked over and taken by other people, and it's gone. Okay, they're gonna evict you, and you won't be around and able to fight it because you won't even know what's happening. I said that's why you need a financial power of attorney. And then I talked about a medical power of attorney, or a health proxy, or there's several different names for that as well. That person makes your medical decisions for you. And so people are like, I'm covered with that, I have a do not resuscitate. Well, a do not resuscitate only kicks in if you die, because then they don't resuscitate you. If you're not dead yet, then the hospital has to decide, if there's no next of kin or they don't know who to reach out to, and you don't have anybody appointed, they have to decide what medical procedures to perform on you. And sometimes they go way to this side because they want to make sure that they don't get sued for not giving you all the possible care and having you live as long as possible. And sometimes they go to this side because, you know what, the hospital's really full, we need to get more people in here, so we're not going to perform some things that you would have wanted. Because they don't know, they're guessing. Your medical power of attorney lets that hospital know this is what she wants, do it. And a power of attorney gives the person, it basically invests them with your power to make your own decisions when you can't do it yourself. So when you pass away, you can no longer make decisions, your power of attorney goes away too. Which is why an executor has to get a certificate or something from the court saying that they've been appointed. A power of attorney does not have the ability to dispose of the estate afterwards. They can't send things to the relatives, they can't do diddly squat until there's a judge that says, yes, you can. So that's what you need the will for. Or a trustee, or a trust. But that's something you talk to the attorney about, and you figure out what you need. But those two powers of attorney are super important. And so, when I'm talking with clients, that's something I talk about a lot as part of their paperwork management and things like that. And all of a sudden, I can't remember how I got on this topic. So, count this as an extra little thingy that you get. But if you haven't done your legal documents, please do it. If you don't have an attorney that you know and trust, give me a holler if you're local. because I can refer you. If you're not local to me, I would talk to some estate planning councils or to your local bar association. And so you're going to want attorneys that specialize in writing your final documents. You don't want your ambulance chasing trial lawyer writing your will and powers of attorney, because they're going to miss something and you're going to have a problem later. So things like digital rights. My aunt did not have a power of attorney that included her husband's digital properties. So she can't take down his Facebook page. So every year I get a notification that it's my uncle's birthday. Wish him a happy birthday. All I have to do is look up and say it, but it's still one of those things that's kind of creepy. Okay? Particularly the first year when it happens to you and you're not expecting it. So somebody who has a digital power of attorney can do things, but that has to be written in. So there's lots of things like that that somebody who does this all the time can help you with. So just a thought. Okay, let me check here real quick. Huh. Okay, so it looks like we're still behind on my thing, but that's okay. I'm alright with that. By the way, if you are watching this and you're enjoying any part of this, please like it. Please subscribe if you're not already. And then if you hit the bell whenever I'm doing this, it'll be a reminder. I do start the live stream about 15 minutes before 7 so that you'll get the notification that it's on. And then you can go, hit the restroom, grab a drink, do whatever, and then come and join us ready to spend the hour. And I do try to end on time, so we've got about 10 minutes left. So I don't really have tons of time to get into things. Alright. Did I cover everything I wanted to cover today? I think I did. Yep, I did. Okay. So, I did get an email asking about this charm quilt and why it's shaped the way it is. Because this is a really weird shape. Alright, let me put this back on the large view so you can see it better. So, this is the halfway point. So this is half, and then it does the same thing up above. So it's kind of like two W's together. And I was asked why I picked this shape. And there were a couple of reasons. Number one, the rules of the challenge said all of the pieces had to be the same shape. I could, like if it was a hexagon, I could have done halves to clean up the edge if I wanted. But other than that, all of the pieces, all one of a kind, all the same shape. Now, I had considered doing something where I appliqued onto one piece of fabric in the back, but no, it had to be the same shape, so I couldn't do that. But we like to play a lot of card games and things, and so what we can do is, if this is on the table, somebody can sit and not be pulling this down when they sit down, either on the ends or on either end, really. This one there'll be a flap there, but they won't pull it that much. Or here, somebody can be sitting there and they're not going to be moving the tablecloth. So this is basically a table topper. It's just a really big one for our table. Plus I thought it was a little bit unusual, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to have and hang when we're not using it. So that's why the strange shape. I generally don't do charm quilts very much. I will do quilts where no fabric's repeated. My big quilt, Order in Chaos, that some of you have seen, it's my organizing company's mascot, basically. And the black and white on the front are the only things that are repeated, but all of the color is one of a kind. So it's kind of a hybrid charm, not charm. And I like to do that where I'm not repeating fabrics. But this thing about all got to be the same size, all got to be the same shape, some people were doing tumblers, a lot of people were doing squares because it was a square exchange. But I didn't really like the zigzagginess on the edges with this shape. And so I wanted smooth corners, even if they are going to be kind of weird to turn. I wanted those smooth corners and sides. And one giant 60-degree triangle seemed stupid. So I wanted to use as many of the squares as I could from the exchange. I think I pulled 2 fabrics out of my stash, 2 5-inch squares to do this. This is all what they gave me. So there's Christmas stuff in here. There's a Care Bear in here. I don't know where he is. There's a hippopotamus in here. There's a lot of weird stuff. Thanksgiving. But I said, you know what? Just put them all together. It's a charm quilt. That's the whole point. So that's what I've got. I was amused as I started assembling these, going, oh, well, I own this fabric, and 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 I own this fabric. It's in behind the wall. It's here on my fabric wall. I can tell you that I own at least half of these, if not more. So it kind of worked out kind of amusing to me that we did this big exchange, but because my stash is the way it is, there were only a few fabrics I didn't already have. But it was fun to play along, so that's what I'm doing. But with the 2-color quilt challenge and the charm quilt challenge all being done before June, and me having less and less and less time to sew, I want to get them done, which is why they're going to quilt camp. Okay. That, I think, is going to be that. So please wish me well this next week. Oh, I didn't tell you this yet. Not this coming week, but the week after. The week that I'm coming back here with you, the 3rd Wednesday of the month. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and possibly Thursday of the month. Of that week, sorry. My bathrooms are being torn up. My floors are being replaced. So, if they're not done, I shouldn't have any noise. They're supposed to leave like around 6. My hair may be all like this because I'm not going to be able to use my bathroom from Monday morning when they arrive. Any of my bathrooms upstairs. I have 2. Any. Sounds like I have 50. Either of my bathrooms upstairs from Monday morning until sometime Thursday. Because once they're done laying the tile and they put the grout in, the grout needs 8 hours to cure before we can even step on it. So we're basically going to be sleeping downstairs in the living room because there's a half bath, so we have a toilet. And then we're going to have to go to the rec center for showers. I mean, it's going to be crazy time here. So I may be a little frazzled when you see me. And I may have a headache the size of Toledo. I know I will on Monday when they're doing the tear out. But I will be so glad to get the floors done. There's big chunks missing out of the grout, which means there's potentials for leaks and all kinds of problems. I've already redone these bathrooms once since we moved in 27 years ago. But the grout started popping up, and so we had a company come who ground out the grout and put in new grout. And it started popping up immediately. And so when I did some research and the contractor did some research, he said, oh, well, the subfloor underneath must be warped, and that's what's causing the problem. Which sounded kind of shady to me, but when I talked to more people, it seems like it's true. So they're going to tear everything out, put down new subfloors, a new moisture barrier, the tile, da-da-da-da-da-da. They told me 3 days, maybe 4. So that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then maybe Thursday. If it's done, when we come back, I will show it to you. If not, it'll be the first Wednesday in March. But that's going to be exciting, but it is going to, again, put yet another slowdown on my path to completing things. But then 2 weeks after that, we're doing all of the carpeting upstairs. So everything gets put into the bathrooms so that we can do the carpeting. And then 2 weeks after that, we're doing the kitchen and bathroom downstairs, and the carpeting in half of the downstairs. So basically all of my floors, and it's going to be crazy town. But wish me well, keep your fingers crossed for me, but hopefully next time I see you I can show you my new floors. So have a wonderful couple of weeks, and I will see you 2 weeks from today from 7 to 8. I hope you had a good time, and I'll see you then. Alright, bye-bye.